I was really moved by this opinion piece you wrote, and what you write about is very different from what we just saw in that piece out of Washington, but there is this similar theme here. Young, impressionable Muslims feeling disconnected from mainstream society. You wrote about this in the New York Times. It was an op-ed entitled From Teenage Angst to Jihad, and in it you tell the story about yourself. You write about being 13 years of age, arguing with a teacher and classmates about the Prophet Muhammad, and you say the people in that moment, those kids in that classroom, looked at you like you were a madman. Tell me what happened.
Oh yeah. I felt disconnected from reality at that moment. I was at that time the novel of Salman Rushdie came out, The Satanic Verses, in which the Prophet Muhammad is depicted as a human being with all his vices and goods, and I found it an insult to my religion. I said, how can a writer write about the Prophet Muhammad? He's the perfect man. And then I got into this argument with my history teacher in the classroom, and he said to me, well, you know, this is free speech, freedom of expression. This is a novelist doing his work. I mean, you can't be angered by that. And then I got really, really upset. I started this heated argument, and I got really angry. I mean, steam was coming out of my ears for being, you know, for feeling that my opinion, you know, my religious feeling at that time was not being well, you know, respected. And I got very, very angry. And at one point I was shouting to my history teacher, like, why don't you show some respect for Muhammad? You should, you know, I mean, as if he was the writer of the book, as if he was part of a whole, you know, whole group of people being against me. The history teacher, clever enough, intelligent enough, sent me out of class. And that moment, being there alone, you know, saying to myself, why am I so angry? Why do I feel ashamed? I mean, that's a feeling I think a lot of young Muslim men in Europe, in the United States can relate to.
If it was so personal for you in that moment as a 13-year-old young man that you write about this in your piece. You say, I know from my own experience that the lure of extremism can be very powerful when you grow up in a world where the media and everyone around you seems to mock and insult your culture. I mean, obviously, you know, you stayed on the right path, but you indicated this desire for revenge.
Yeah, I became a novelist. And I used to channel my anger, you know. I use it as a transformational power, you could say. But there are young people who feel rejected by society, who feel that media, you know, is mocking their religion, is condescending towards their religion. And they do not feel, let me say, they do not feel that their anger is being heard, you know. And they have the feeling that they're still second-class citizens in a secular society. And I think the great challenge of Muslims in Europe and America is how do we deal with a secular religious, with something we hold sacred in a secular society? How to deal with this when it comes to freedom of speech? What is the position of religion in this society? And I can tell you...
What is the answer to that? What is the answer to that? I've talked to so many very, very smart people on the show. I'm asking about these people who feel legitimately marginalized, sitting at the margins of society, and some of them go the wrong way.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think being listened to is the most important. I go into prisons, I go into schools, and I talk about this. And there are young people, there are young men who recognize it. They recognize that I know about their anger. And the moment they feel understood by this, they want to tell their story. And being, you know, having this feeling of this person, of society, is accepting my anger, is accepting it, you know, to be spoken out, gives people a relief, gives them the feeling that they belong to that society. And I think at this moment, when it comes to, you know, the big themes about secular society and Islam, a lot of Muslims in Europe, you know, do not feel listened to, do not feel understood. And first of all, 99% of the Muslims in Europe, peace-loving, love their society, love being in Europe. But there is a small margin of people who radicalize and go into terrorism.
But shouldn't there be other people in addition to novelists? And I think it's wonderful what you're doing going into these prisons, but shouldn't it be higher levels who are the people who do this listening to keep these people from taking the wrong path?
Well, there should be more of them, and we should be more aware. I mean, for one thing, a lone wolf, somebody who commits terrorism, you know, it's very, very difficult, you know, to find out who is doing what and then turn them back. I mean, the one who goes into terrorism, there are individuals. But we as a community, we have to stand up. I mean, there are writers, there are artists, directors, but also mothers and fathers sending their children to school and saying, listen, you are a citizen of our society. There's equality for everybody. Do not feel ashamed of your position. Do not feel ashamed of your religion, and go, go open into the debate. And don't worry, your vulnerability is great. And I think now, I mean, when that happened to me, that was 25 years ago, I felt so alone. And that situation is different now. People talk to each other about this.